Thanks for joining us on episode 1595 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Rob Tracz, and I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to avoid burnout and have a breakthrough is key. And one way to be inspired is to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader. When I was denied the distraction and all my clients were gone for the weekend for a holiday, and I had the opportunity to sit and reflect and realize that there was more to what I wanted to do. There's more to my coaching than just squats and deadlifts. And I realized that this personal development journey and just always looking to work and help other people was something more, and I needed to pursue that. And
welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's podcast episode, I interview Rob Tracz. I asked Rob about how his coaching helps entrepreneurs grow. Rob also shares how he sees the relationship between our health and our mindset. And I also asked Rob to share the connection between faith and fitness. I have a great book that's been out for a while now called Inspired Living. Assemble the puzzle of your calling by mastering your time, your talent, and your treasures. You can find out more about that book over at inspiredlivingbook.com. It'll take you to a page where there's information and you can sign up to get some mailings about it as well as purchase a copy there. I'd love to see you get a copy and share with me how it impacted your world. Today we're joined by Rob Tracz, a dynamic coach and speaker specializing in helping driven entrepreneurs break through stagnation to achieve holistic success. As the founder of Prime Performance Coaching, Rob guides clients to look good, feel good, and do great things by blending physical, mental, and emotional strategies that foster resilience, clarity, and peak performance. With a focus on creating awareness and avoiding burnout, Rob's methods empower entrepreneurs to elevate their lives and businesses simultaneously. Get ready for actionable insights and transformative strategies that will help you thrive both personally and professionally. Welcome to the show, Rob.
hey, Scott, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. It's good to have you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today. So I shared a little bit in the intro about some of the work you do around your clients and talking about physical health, mental health, emotional health, business, clarity, resilience, all of these things. And however, I always think it's funny because when we talk about what we do and we talk about how we got here and these sorts of things, it's always, I think of it like an Instagram photo. We leave so much out of the picture. We make sure we frame it just right. So take people back a little bit and talk a little bit about your journey and what has brought you to the point where this is the work you feel called to do.
Yeah, the best place for me to really start off with that would be childhood. My parents got divorced at a super young age. I'm moving across state lines pretty far away, transferring different school districts year after year. And as you can imagine, as a kid, it's pretty difficult to make and maintain friendships, and especially switching schools every year made it especially difficult. And so I was always looking to create like friendships and getting attention from others and just seeing what I could do. I felt very alone and isolated. And eventually I found a friend at this one school that we finally ended up calling it hometown in upstate New York. And his dad was actually the coach of the youth football team, and he got me to come out to practice on the team. I learned two really important lessons that first day of practice. I learned that you can't show up to football practice wearing jeans and expect to do really well. And the other thing I learned was that the more athletic kids, the kids who seemed to get through practice with ease, they were in better shape. They were a little bit bigger and faster. They seem to be way more popular, have all the friends on the team. And I'm over here struggling to complete the warm-up lap. But I practiced the warm-ups and the exercises on my own at home. And I was like, if I can do this better, then maybe I'll get better. Maybe I'll be able to play a little bit more and make more friends. And it turns out that it was relatively true. I started exercising a little bit more at home. I stopped eating as much ice cream and stopped watching as much TV and got in a little bit better shape. And the better shape I got into, the more playing time. The more playing time led to more friends, and more friends meant more birthday parties, and more birthday parties meant that I had to keep my grades up. So that was all the goal setting for me then. And really, that became the gateway to personal development and how fitness and physical activity taught me discipline and grit, resilience, goal setting, social skills, all these different things. And that's what I leaned on for most of my life, especially with different sports teams and different grades and different classes and things, and ultimately getting me into grad school, playing college football, winning a championship for rugby in college, and then eventually school being over, needing to search and find a new way to create that team camaraderie. And it was an easy transition for me to fall into coaching. I became a strength and conditioning coach, and that allowed me to still work together with many other individuals on a common goal, common desire, or championship or winning. And I went the one of two routes. Are you familiar with the industry of strength and conditioning, Scott?
A little bit, but I wouldn't assume that everybody is. So you could unpack that a little bit.
Typically in strength and conditioning realm, you go one of two paths. You either go the collegiate setting to try to work with bigger schools and then with the hopes of eventually making it to a professional team, or you go more of the private sector and you either open your own gym or work for a private facility. And that's the route that I took. And that was exciting for me because it was the first taste of entrepreneurship. I was allowed to work as much as I wanted and work with whoever I wanted. I could work on my own sales skills and all these things. And it was exciting. And I got to really scale my book of business up to the point where I was working 15, 16, 17-hour days, 7 days a week for 3 years. And that was great at the time. I was making money. I thought I was doing what I wanted to be doing. I thought I was having all the success. But what that did was that blinded me to what was really happening outside of work. The relationship with the girl I was dating at the time fell apart. My friends stopped calling me to hang out for parties and events, and missing weddings and friends' children's births, and then even missing holidays with my family. And one of the most important things I missed was the remaining time that my dad still had around. He got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and that came on really quick. And luckily I was there by his side when he did pass, and he passed peacefully. But I regret not being there for the week or the couple weeks before that, spending that time. And after he had passed, normally you might assume that that would be a wake-up call, but not for me. For me, that was the full schedule that I had just became a distraction from what life had actually became. And it was about another year or so afterwards when I was denied the distraction and all my clients were gone for the weekend for a holiday. And I had the opportunity to sit and reflect and realize that there was more to what I wanted to do. There's more to my coaching than just squats and deadlifts. And I realized that this personal development journey and just always looking to work and help other people was something more. And I needed to pursue that. And wasn't quite sure, but it started me on a new journey to figuring out what I wanted to be doing really. And then ultimately it became Prime Performance Coaching, what I'm doing now, and helping a lot of solopreneurs and side hustlers break free from that stagnation and that terrible mundane burnout phase that I was going through, and hopefully preventing them from going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that's a long-winded answer, but pretty much that's the journey that I had gone on.
Mm-hmm. So when did you make that shift? What was the time frame when you had that moment of reflection?
From when my father had passed, or from
you said it was about a year after your father had passed. So when did you make that transition to starting to think about doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, it was like a holiday. It was probably, I think it was 4th of July, because there was warm weather, but I was kind of sitting in my apartment. It was dark. It was like a Friday night. So I was gearing up for it. This was 2017, 2018. And I'm sitting there by myself and I'm like, what do normal people do on Friday nights? And then I realized, oh, I used to go out, used to have fun with friends, call people up and see what's going on, but nobody was around, nobody was available. And so I sat by myself and I was like, geez, this isn't right. And then I started to reflect on, okay, what's helped me? What did I want to be doing? What do I want to figure out? And it was difficult for me because I didn't want to leave the identity that I built, the strength and conditioning coach. And it wasn't until one of my mentors had shared with me, he's like, Rob, at the end of the day, all coaching, one way or another, essentially is life coaching. And what you really got to be doing is taking what you already know, take the experience, the skills that you've learned as a great strength and conditioning coach, and just transform it or evolve it into something new, and really figuring out like, what is the problem that you really want to be solving for others, and who do you want to be solving this problem for? And that helped me piece things together. And from there, that journey was just fitting all the pieces into place, kind of like the Tetris game. It was like, where does this go? How can I fit that?
So you just mentioned something. You said a mentor that you have, and I'm a big believer of it. As coaches, I think we need coaches. We need people that are outside of us to sometimes say that thing like, hey, dude, this is what I see, reflection, and help wake us up. How have your mentors and your coaches and other people in your life, how do you think they affected the journey that you were on?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of coaches, especially because athletics becoming such a pillar to my success and to my identity too. So I've had a lot of great coaches, especially growing up, football, wrestling, lacrosse, all of those really helped guide me and lead me through, especially because my parents were divorced and I spent most of my time with my mom. So they became different father figures, and I got to learn different characteristics and values that I could bring on to myself and really help shape who I am. I've also had a lot of bad coaches though, like when I was transitioning out of strength and conditioning and looking for new mentors to guide me and figuring things out, and falling into some of those like guru people that you see sometimes on the internet, and where they have their best interest is in themselves and not really the people that they're working with. So I've learned a lot for things that I want to adopt as a human and as a coach, but then also things that I want to shy away from and make sure that I keep that away and from myself and my coaching, and even the clients too, making sure that they deliver and keep those aspects away from themselves.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit. One of the things I like to highlight on the show is how our individual faith journey or spiritual walk, whatever that plays out for us, how that interfaces and interacts with our life journey. So share a little bit about how that feedback loop has played out in your life.
Yeah, I was raised pretty religious, actually. My father went to Catholic school, and my mom never really was super into religion or faith, and spending a lot of time with her, she made me go to religion school and CCD and all these other things up to a certain age. And then she just stopped. And from there, it was like, okay, sports are my new thing. I'm just going to keep following through that. And for a while, religion didn't play a huge role in my life. And then in college, actually, my roommate from high school, we decided that we wanted to start going back to mass and church and paying attention, and started doing that a little bit, and then fell off a bit after college. And it's crazy because it weaves its like way back in and out. So there's a lot of faith, a lot of higher calling and understanding of the different things that I need to be doing. And when the waves come in, it really motivates me because I feel like not so much alone. There's something else to it. There's a bigger reason for me to be doing things. And I feel like I'm coming back through another big wave of that as well. I've been recently trying to get back to going to church on the weekends and as much as possible. So it's an interesting path, but through and through, there's always been something for me to lean on, to lean into, I guess I should say, that kind of carries me forward through.
A couple of times whenever you were talking earlier, you mentioned identity, your identity as a coach, your identity around this. How do you see identity playing out, not just for you, but for the clients that you work with, in terms of how does their identity affect both what they do in terms of their health, their fitness, their resilience, these different components. And then as well, how do you see it being a barrier for us sometimes when we're trying to change that who we are?
Yeah, so it's a great question because a lot of individuals that I come to, they're looking to generate some sort of momentum, right? They're looking because they're feeling a little bit of stuck, whether it is their health, their fitness, but more times or not, then it's their something with their business or something with their side hustle where they're trying to generate and get back into some kind of movement and momentum. And identity plays a role because there's a lot of limiting beliefs that individuals have. And also, a lot of times we don't know our identity. We fall victim into just social media, following things. We think that we're supposed to be somebody, but we don't do enough time reflecting on ourselves. Like when I first made the transition out of strength and conditioning, I knew in business, like popular or buzzwords or like core values and goals and aspirations and such. But thinking about it, I was like, what are my values? What do I really hold true to myself? And that was a process for me to figure those out and figuring out like what really moves me and motivates me. So when I work with individuals, it's really got to figure out who we are first, because then that kind of establishes the baseline. Then we can figure out who do we need to become next? What do we need to change? And what beliefs, what kind of habits, what kind of people do we need to be around? All those things kind of craft. And once we know that, then we can close that gap, right? We can build that bridge from who we want to be to, or from who we are to who do we want to be. And that becomes the whole nother game, because once you eventually get there and you create the momentum, then it's time to check back in, shine some awareness on, okay, do we need to grow and evolve again as a person? And if so, what do we need to change differently?
Mm-hmm. You talked there about people getting stagnated or getting stuck and wanting momentum to change. What are some of the biggest things that you've seen that both that, number one, get us stuck, and then where do you start with helping folks get unstuck, so to speak?
Yeah, I think getting stuck or slowing down comes from a lot of different ways. For me, when I was working at that small private facility, it showed up in too much comfort. It was the same stuff every day. I wasn't being challenged. I was not growing. My energy was just getting drained. I was physically, cognitively, emotionally fatigued from the same stuff every single day. No new inputs. I was also chaotic lifestyle, like getting up at 3:50 every morning and going to sleep at like 11 p.m. just so I can get right back up. It was long hours, long days. And I was isolated. I was around people all day long, sometimes as many as like 16 different people training and bigger with teams. But yet I was so alone at the same time. And I just felt so depleted. There's no opportunity for growth. It was daunting to just look ahead of my entire life and not see anything or any opportunity. So I feel like a lot of times people are starting to slow down. They might feel some of those similar things: isolated, fatigued, chaotic schedules, unclear or no focus or no vision, and then just tired and just weak. I think those things start to creep in, and it's tough because in today's hustle culture, we're told just grind a little bit more, you can sleep later, and that becomes a double-sided sword that really hurts us because we continue to push and we continue to dig the deeper holes, and it becomes that much harder for us to climb back out of it later on.
So what have you seen help folks to reassess and reset and get past some of those stuck feelings?
I think the first thing really is what you just said there, is that reassess and shining awareness on it, because we know something's not going right. Something's a little bit off. We're not hitting numbers. We're not making any progress. We're not really growing. We're not really sure why. And I think really slowing things down and reflecting more consciously, really, and paying attention to some of those things, like where am I challenging myself? What am I doing to get a little bit better? Or how am I setting myself up to grow to the next level? And I think unless you shine that light on the awareness and seeing where you can point and direct the ship, you can't really like promise to move any more forward. So I think the awareness, kind of slowing things down, going through a couple of different audits. I do a lot of different exercises and reflection questions, working with my clients and colleagues and friends even to map these things out, and having a system behind those check-ins so that we can make sure that we don't slip into some of that like robot mode kind of thing again.
Let's talk a little bit about burnout. Back when you were feeling and had that moment of reflection when you were like, wait a minute, what do normal people do on Friday night? That kind of thing. Would you have described yourself as burnout? Do you think you were suffering from burnout?
Oh, 100%. And I was still super young, and I was wearing it as a badge of honor. I was excited for it because a lot of people now is, oh yeah, continuing to push, continuing to grind. Oh, I'm strong enough. I can keep going. It's okay. Like, to me, like I said, I wore it like a badge of honor. Like, I was proud to be working and grinding. And because of my background in sports, it's always, you're taught to be more disciplined and just grind through it and grit it out, basically. And I kept telling myself I was doing that, but then pushing, looking for the end zone, and the end zone kept going a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. So then 3 years later, I'm like, geez, I still can't get there. What's going on? And then it's like, I'm hitting these different metrics and goals. I'm on paper hitting success, but I'm still not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm just chasing this shadow success. And every time I reach for it, it just moves a little bit further away.
You talked about hustle culture earlier. What's kind of your answer to the hustle culture that's out there? Sleep when you're dead, grind more, work harder. What is your answer to people that kind of push that?
It's great to talk about. I think it's cool to kind of share, and it sets people apart. And it really, at the same time, it's helpful too, because it does push a lot of people's boundaries. It does push us and make us better. But I think there is another side to it. I think the awareness and understanding your boundaries is important. And I think that we don't pay enough attention to it on a day-to-day basis. I think it is growing in popularity, I should say, about the anti-hustle kind of culture that's going on right now. And I'm worried, though, that so many people are going to shy away from the hard work. And I feel like I see a lot of that now with individuals where they're instant gratification, right? Like social media, like my attention span is so short. I need more. I need it faster. I need it now. And I think people are starting to kind of shy away from the grind. I think there's a healthy balance that needs to be at play. And I think it's important to go through it to a certain degree, because that's how you can establish your boundaries. And every once in a while, you're going to need to push past the boundaries if you have an important deadline or a sprint season that you're going through. But if you don't have the right side or the end of the bookend, you're just going to keep pushing. You'll never know when to really tone it back or how long to tone it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I talk a lot about, we try to make things either or, when in reality, they're both. And I think that applies to the anti-hustle culture. It's either of those to an extreme is not good. You need some of both of those. It's knowing when and where to put what that becomes important, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think going back to the discussion about mentors and coaches, I think that's another way where they become so much more valuable, because they can give you that perspective. They can share some of their insights and experiences, not to tell you what's right and wrong, but to shine the light so you can make the better decisions for yourself.
Mm-hmm. They can help you ask the right questions to figure out, because kind of like what you said, you have a season where you need to grind. Okay, that's intentional, deliberate, and planned, versus, oh, I'm just supposed to grind 15 hours a day for the rest of my life. Probably not healthy. Yeah. Might end up with some problems there. That it is that thinking about it and doing it intentionally, I think, that matters. But so often we don't. Talk a little bit about intentionality. How do you help folks focus more intentionally on what's most important to them?
Yeah, it's coming back to that like awareness, consciousness kind of thing. It's okay, where are we? What season are we in? Where are we trying to get to? And what are our inputs? Are we eating well? Are we intentional with what we're consuming? Is the food that we're consuming energizing us? But then also, what's our digital diet looking like? Are we consuming great podcasts like this one, or are we just binging Netflix and coming home, draining ourselves even more so that we start the next day at zero instead of inspired and motivated and ready to roll? I think there are times where it's important to throw on something mindless and decompress and allow yourself to chill out and celebrate and be relaxed. But I think it depends on the season that you're in and transitioning into. And when you have the awareness and okay, I just had 3 sprint seasons and I just did a little bit of a slow season, maybe I need to tone it back a little bit and relax a little bit more so that I can open up my fuel tank so I can fill it back to the top, so I can hit it hard again in 2 weeks or in the next month, or maybe next week, even maybe like giving yourself a little bit of extra downtime. That's where I fell off in my like robot mode kind of days. I was just pushing every single week. I was like, I need to hit more sessions. I need to get more people in. How do I max this out? And then I was trying to pack on different things like supplements and online coaching and all these different things so that I could continue to fill that schedule. So I was redlining it every single week and I wasn't being intentional. And I was like, oh, I'll just drink another energy drink to get myself through. I just need to order some quick pizza. And man, I'm a strength and conditioning specialist. I'm supposed to be the epitome of health. And all I'm consuming is like energy drinks and fast food, and sleep is terrible and everything was a mess, just falling apart. So that was like, oh, I'm not being intentional with anything. I'm in survival mode is what it was.
So you're saying energy drinks and pizza is not a well-balanced diet?
two of the 3 major food groups, right?
Yeah. I mean, pizza has like tomato sauce on it. That's a vegetable, right? That should count.
Yeah.
They make the dough out of wheat. It's all good. No, probably not. And even there, again, it goes back to, I think, even worse than what you were eating is the imbalance of what you were eating in terms of that was all you were consuming is probably part of the problem as well.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurs. You work a lot with entrepreneurs, you work with solopreneurs, you work with those folks. And I think one of the terms that I think is overlooked in entrepreneurial success is resilience. This idea of being able to get knocked down and get up again, not to quote a song, but those sorts of things. What do you see as the key around resilience for entrepreneurs and how it helps them sustain their success?
Yeah, I think like the key really is the challenge that we're accepting. So every day, are we challenging ourselves? Are we pushing that and building our capacity? So to me, resilience is the capacity to handle not only the downs, but also the ups too. It's about keeping yourself in check and keeping yourself in that middle lane there. A lot of times in entrepreneurship and like even side hustles, when your product does really well, you start making a lot of money and then you start increasing your livelihood. And then all of a sudden your expenses are too high and then you got to dip back down. So it's about that emotional and mental and physical too balancing act. And the more that you challenge yourself, the more confidence that you build, whether you are successful with the different challenges and different things that you set out for, or you fail, as long as you're learning and growing and expanding that capacity to handle those things and deepening your experience pool, that builds that confidence and you'll be able to handle more things that happen in life, whether clients dip off or things spark up really quick. It'll keep you emotionally in check.
Rob, I've got a few questions that I like to ask all of my guests, but before I ask you those, is there anything else about your work over at Prime Performance Coaching that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think the one thing, if you're listening through this, I feel like the through line for a lot of that I talk about and I teach in workshops and coaching is really just slowing down and reflect more on a conscious level and paying attention to what really works for you and taking that to heart too. Like we were just talking about the challenging and making sure that we're building our resilience, but learning how much you can handle and understanding where you can set those boundaries so you can push harder and you can dial things back when you need to. And I think that comes from being able to reflect more on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, on a systematized basis, so that you can check the check engine light and see where you're at.
Absolutely. So my brand is Inspired Stewardship, and I runs things through that lens of stewardship. And yet I've discovered over the years, that's a word that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when you hear the word stewardship, what does that word mean to you?
Yeah, stewardship to me means that you're really taking care of or like protecting something. So for me, when I think about that, I think also about like my days of burnout and in robot mode and how I wasn't really taking care of myself and how that affected many other people. Yeah, my clients were benefiting from me grinding to the bone, but like my family, my relationships with my friends, and even just myself, they were not. And that was a poor reflection on myself because I wasn't holding myself up and I wasn't taking care of myself on a higher level that I needed to be. I was falling short and falling for quick attention, quick money, quick stuff just because it was right there. And that's what I thought I wanted to, but I wasn't thinking bigger picture and I wasn't protecting myself. And I'm sad about not spending those short periods of time that my dad still had left, but that's me being selfish. Like also my dad's not getting that time with me as well. And that could have been better if I took better care of myself and my time. And I think that's what stewardship kind of means to me, is making sure that you're taking care of something that's given to you or something that you have so that others can accept it and grow and benefit from it.
So this is my favorite question that I like to ask everybody. Imagine for a moment that I could invent this magic machine. And with this machine, I was able to take you from where you are today and transport you into the future, maybe 150, maybe 250 years. And through the power of this machine, you will be able to look back and see your entire life, see all of the ripples, all of the connections, all of the impacts you've left. What impact do you hope you've left in the world?
I hope it's a positive impact, and I hope that it deals with a lot of connection. I hope that the things that I share and teach and spread with a lot of my clients and audience members on speaking on stages and such, I really hope that people understand and can connect deeper with those around them and with new people too. I feel like with today's technology and everything, we're so disconnected, and although we are closer, I feel like we're still so far apart. And I feel like better connections, deeper connections really can lead to a more fulfilled life, a more happy life, a more joyful life, and just better around. And I think it really stems from connection. So I hope everything that I teach kind of transfers over into that in the future.
So what's on the roadmap? What's coming next as you continue on your journey?
Yeah, just past 100 episodes on my podcast. So I'm excited for new guests and growing that show and connecting with more people, but also more workshops and more group coachings and different things, and just launching a mastermind. So I'm excited for that whole journey and traveling and speaking. In the past 2 years, I think I've spoken in Canada, down in the Caribbean, and all over the United States. And that's super exciting for me, getting out and about and just sharing experiences and some of my frameworks that I teach. And it's just cool to see new people and feel the energy in different settings and venues. So I'm looking forward to many more events and opportunities like that.
So you can find out more about Rob Tracz over at robtracz.com. That's spelled ROBTRACZ.com. Of course, I'll have a link to that over in the show notes as well, so you can find it there. Rob, anything else you'd like to share with the listener?
Yeah, if anyone listening resonates or finds any of this stuff interesting or informative, I'd love to chat, love to see if you're feeling stuck or if you're feeling slow or stale with anything in your journey, I encourage you to reach out to me on social media. Is the easiest places to touch base with me. LinkedIn, social, and Instagram, or going over to my website and just searching at survivingthesidehustle.com/free call.
I'll put a link to that over in the show notes as well, so folks can find it there if they missed that. Thank you so much for being on today.
Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.